Tyrant captor of humanity, tyrant conqueror of all, tyrant hideous destructor, tyrant every man shall fall. That's right, folks. Today we're gonna discuss my favorite band of all time, Judas freaking Priest. Here we go. This is some heavy duty stuff. Over 50 years in metal. Really well-known, famous band. Why I personally go towards Judas Priest instead of Iron Maiden or Metallica or Black Sabbath even. Despite the album sales, I really enjoy the fact how versatile Priest is. They've done this 70s proggy, kind of murky, kind of technical metal. Back in the day when no one else was actually doing that kind of stuff. They've done the 80s silly biker rock, fun, very straightforward rock metal kind of thing with British steel. Then they kind of combined the two with Scream for Vengeance, Defenders of the Faith. They've done some really shitty hair metal with Turbo. But then they came back with Painkiller in 1990 and released this almost kind of thrashy speed metal album that no one was expecting of them. And yeah, then they made this return in the 2000s. And I'm not saying that every single Priest album is brilliant, but I must say it's... they've done it pretty much all and succeeded in the field of metal. They're kind of like the Beatles of heavy metal in a sense that they were there first and they've kind of done everything. Black Sabbath certainly was an earlier band and they made some amazing music, but they're kind of tied to this really slow and dark and bluesy, almost like a doom metal kind of thing, whereas Priest has done so many different styles. Even Iron Maiden is kind of sticking to their 80s style and doing that thing. And now in 2000s, yeah, Iron Maiden is certainly doing something different, but I'm not a huge fan of what Iron Maiden has been doing the past 20 years. It's kind of like prog rock. It doesn't sound like heavy metal to me anymore, whereas Priest is still very concisely cranking it up, even with the latest album Firepower, which was surprisingly good. I think probably the best album since Painkiller. Amazing stuff. And there's a new album coming up in March 2024, Invisible Shield, so also looking up to that one. It's currently January 2024 when I'm recording this video. So, how about Priest? The first album, Rock'n'Rolla, 1974. In my opinion, not a great album. I'm not a huge fan of this one. It's nice to have it. And I can understand there wasn't much metal back in the day, back in 1974. I'm not very interested about that. However, the second album, 1976, Sad Wings of Destiny. Now we're talking. I really like this remaster, although I do prefer the original track list, which starts with Victim of Changes. I think it's a very cool way to begin the album. I also like the Island of Domination being near the end because it kind of feels almost like a joke song. There's this tongue-in-cheek S&M lyrics there and all that, so it's kind of a joke song. I think it kind of works at the end of the album better than in the middle, but that's just me. I really love Prelude, I really love Tyrant and Genocide and The Ripper and Dreamer Deceiver. This is pretty much the perfect album. Some have called it the Sgt. Pepper of Judas Priest. Then, here's Sin After Sin. I'm definitely gonna give Sad Wings of Destiny 2 thumbs up, and so does this one. Maybe it isn't quite as strong. There's some maybe slight missteps here, like Last Rose of Summer, but still, I think it's a very solid album. It's kind of a transitional album. They changed to a bigger record company, I think CBS Records at this point. But there's lots to love about this one. I really love Sinner. I like Raw Deal. It has amazing amount of riffs. Then there's Let Us Pray, Call for the Priest, which used to have this mistake on the first CD version, but it's been corrected here on this one. Dissident Aggressor is an amazing song. I mean, even Slayer has covered it 10 years later or so. So, what a great album. What a magical band. Stained Class from 1978, another 2 thumbs up for me. 3 brilliant albums in a row. I think this one might take the cake. The only issue that I have with this album is that on the first CD version, it sounded there wasn't enough bass there. It sounded a bit too clean and kind of clinical. Whereas this one, I think it sounds very, very nice. For some listeners, it might be a bit too loud sounding, but I kind of like the grittiness of it a bit. It gives it a little bit more attitude. Probably the most modern metal album of the 70s. It was really like they were ahead of their time with this one, in my opinion. And then in the 70s, in 1978, they squeezed another one out that same year called Killing Machine. In America, they put Green Monolith as track number 7. It's actually included in here as well. And call it Hellbent for Leather, which I think is a cool title as well. But for me, this album is called Killing Machine. It's a British band, so I'm going to go with the British version. But yeah, Green Monolith has been added here, so it's not as big of a difference nowadays than it used to be. Anything else in the 70s? Yep. I don't know where to begin, actually. Well, here's another version of Sidewalks of Destiny. I think this is a decent one. It's Gull Records Attic version. It's a fine one. I don't really find anything problematic about this. There was this weird remaster that had like this little glip or glitch on Island of Domination where someone seems to I don't know, the tape seems to be sprung or something like that a bit. So it doesn't sound quite right. Here's let's see this one first, sorry. Another version of Shadows of Destiny. This is the Repertoire Records. I think this is a very, very cool version of the album. Works nicely. Here's Sin After Sin, the original. I think this is the so-called Nice Price version, where they have this mix-up here. Track number 5 should be called Call for the Priest, Let Us Pray, but they've written Call for the Priest here as the beginning of track number 6. And then also the markings on the CD where the tracks begin are wrong. Other than that, yeah, it's a fine version. Here's the Nice Price version of Stained Class. Not enough bass here. And also the cover artwork is very basic. I'm not a huge fan of this one. But that was the original CD version that for 10 years, 15 years, I think that was the only version that you could really get your hands on. So it's better than nothing. Here is the original Killing Machine. So as you can see, there is no Green Monolith here on the B side. I think this is absolutely a solid album. Very, very cool one. And what next? Here is, let's see, Sin After Sin, the remastered version. I think this is fine. Absolutely no problem with this one. It's a bit on the loud side, I guess, and the bonus tracks are kind of silly. Race with the Devil is just fine. I think it was originally recorded during the Stained Class sessions, so it's like one album too early, but that works fine. But it's kind of weird having Jawbreaker's live version here. Jawbreaker was released in 1984, so that's kind of weird having it so early here. But it's a nice bonus track. I really like the song, so I think this remaster is a good one, definitely. Here's Stained Class. This is the remaster version, and it works nicely. 2 bonus tracks. Fire Burns Below, I don't like at all. Better by You, Better Than Me. That's a fine live song in my opinion. That's probably from their Painkiller tour, early 90s, so it's in the wrong place here. But at least that song was originally released here. So even though it's from the wrong tour, it kind of makes sense. So I guess that's fine. And here is Killing Machine. And this one also has Green Monalishi, so actually this should be like Hellbent for Leather, I guess. Fight for Your Life is a cool demo that they released here. It's clearly the demo version of Rock Hard, Ride Free that was also released on Defenders of the Faith in 1984. So that's way too early here. But it's nice to have that one. And then there's Riding on the Wind, which was originally released on Scream for Vengeance, though. It's kind of like in the wrong place here, but whatever. And then they finished off that decade with a live album. But I actually have some other live stuff here. Some of these are unofficial. So here on this one, here's the Reading concert from 1975, so it would have been actually from their first album, Rock'n'Rolla. So they played songs like Victim of Changes, Dreamer, Deceiver, The Ripper, Mother Son, which hasn't been officially released, except in this box set. They finally put it, I think, on one of these bonus discs. I can't find it right now, but it's here somewhere. Island of Domination, but it's a different version from the album. They have a different main riff in the song. And then they play this solo, which sounds kind of like Winter Retreat. Or is it called Deep Freeze? I think it's called actually Deep Freeze, yeah, that solo section. And then there's Rock'n'Rolla, and it's an extended version. They actually play some of Genocide in the middle of that song and all that. And yeah, there's Old Grey Whistle Test from 75 as well, which is also, you can find it on video. And there's a full version of Rock'n'Rolla here, and then there's Diamonds and Rust, recorded in 1975. So that was even before their second album. And wonder what's next. Probably this one. Let's go with this one. Sin After Sin tour from their third tour. There are 2 different bootlegs floating around. This is Cruising in the Town. It's got songs like Call for the Priest, Victim of Changes, Diamonds and Rust, The Ripper, Sinner, Genocide, and finishing off with Starbreaker. And this was recorded in San Antonio, Texas on June the 21st in 1977. I think it sounds decent considering the time, when it was recorded. Not great, but decent. And here's Cambridge Savages. It's from their Stained Class tour in 1978, on 20th January in 1978. And the track list is amazing. They play Exciter, White Heat Red Hot, The Ripper, Savage, which I've never heard anywhere else live, Sinner, Beyond the Realms of Death, Victim of Changes, Better by You, Better Than Me, kind of a rare one. Stained Class, never heard it anywhere else. Genocide, Let Us Pray, Call for the Priest, which I think this was pretty much one of the last times they actually played that song. So that's like 4 really rare songs right there. And then finishing off with Starbreaker. Unfortunately, it sounds like complete shit. The sound quality is horrible. I believe this was the show that they played for their own fan club. So that's why there are so many Stained Class songs here. I think it's really a shame that we haven't heard Savage or Stained Class live from Judas Priest. Halford's solo band played that, and you can find it on what's that called? Live Insurrection in 2001, a live double CD. You can find Tyrant there, and you can find Stained Class, and those two I think are my two favorite Judas Priest songs of all time. But there you go. Kind of interesting stuff if you're into Priest. And here is Tyrants of Cleveland. This actually, I combined the stuff. There's this Priest live and rare thing. I think this is like a Japanese CD. And they have some of those single B-sides from the late 70s, like Beyond the Realms of Death, White Heat Red Hot, and Starbreaker. And I think this is the place where I first heard the versions of Beyond the Realms of Death and White Heat Red Hot live from the late 70s. So I don't think you can actually find them even on Unleashed in the East. You can't find those. Starbreaker is there, but this is another version of it. This is like a smaller club where they're playing. So the sound is a bit rougher, but it's definitely genuine live sound. So that's really cool. So what I did, I took some of these songs, and then I combined it with some of the songs they released in this huge box set here. And I checked out the original set list. So I think there's like one song missing here, I think. At least one song missing. But what I've got is the 9th of May 1978, Priest in Cleveland, with great quality, playing White Heat Red Hot, The Ripper, Beyond the Realms of Death, Victim of Changes, Starbreaker, and Genocide. And then later on, I have this kind of rare version of Better By You, Better Than Me from that same tour from Tokyo. And then Evil Fantasies, which was released as a single B-side. And then there's Beyond the Realms of Death. I think these are actually the same ones as on Unleashed in the East. So they really combine that album nicely. And then I have some rare songs like Heart of a Lion, which I think is a kind of cool. It's really weird that they didn't put that on any of the 80s albums, because I think Heart of a Lion is a very cool song. Free Will Burning with the original CD intro. Angel from 2008 live version, and Deal with the Devil, which I think is on one of those Japanese special CDs, kind of like a bonus track. I guess it's called, what's that, Live Evil? Touch of Live, yeah, I think it's called. It was recorded after Angel of Retribution, that live version, but the Japanese edition has 2 extra songs. There was another one that was included from that album on live there. But yeah, some kind of rare, cool stuff here. Then with the box set, they put this Beyond Live and Rare thing, which has Mother Son released officially for the first time. The sound quality isn't that great, to be honest. Then there's, I think it's Commemorate, is it? Maybe I'm not remembering right. I think actually it might be that one. They're playing like, in the studio they're playing Epitaph from Sad Weeks of Destiny, and that's like not the final cut, so it's one of the earlier versions. Then there's a bunch of kind of rare live songs here. Kind of more like, well, the show isn't great, the sound quality is not always great, but it's rare, so let's put it in here. So there's a bunch of songs that you can't officially find anywhere outside the box set. So that's one of the things that sold that box set to me, which is kind of stupid because I have most of these albums already. But let's go on. Live at the Mud Club from 1979. And this is from the Killing Machine Hellbent for Leather tour. They play Hellbent for Leather, Delivering the Goods, Running Wild, Beyond the Realms of Death, Green Manalishi, Victim of Changes, Rock Forever. and Starbreaker. And this is from that huge box set over there in the background from this one as well. So that's a cool one. And then if I was allowed only one CD to be taken on a desert island for the rest of my life, what would my favorite CD of all time be? Unleashed in the East. No question about that. It's absolutely perfect, in my opinion. The track list is really good. Here we have just the 9 tracks, like it was originally released in Europe, which is way too short, in my opinion. So they play, well, you're going to find out easily what they play if you look at Wikipedia or something like that. But all of these songs really, like complete bands were formed based on these names alone. There's a band called Exciter, band called Sinner, Running Wild, The Ripper, Genocide, Tyrant. It's just ridiculous how influential and brilliant this album is. 1979, and it really changed the metal world pretty much completely. On the Japanese version, they had 4 extra tracks. So this is the remaster, where they have also Rock Forever, Delivering the Goods, Hellbound Follow, and Starbreaker included here, and it's pretty much perfect. I have this version also on vinyl. I think the original Japanese version has like the first 9 tracks are like on this regular LP, but then there's like an extra EP where you get 2 tracks on one side and 2 tracks on the other side. And then there's another EP where you can actually find on vinyl the official version of Beyond the Realms of Death. So if you get that one also, that kind of builds up the number of these songs to 14. And then you can get Evil Fantasies also live, so that would be already 15. And do I remember correctly, was there like another one? I think they also played on that show 2 other tracks, White Heat, Red Hot. Unfortunately, I don't think you can find it, any official version of it from 1979. But there's the Cleveland version from 1978, which is great as well. And then they actually played another song. I can't remember the title of it. It's from Killing Machine. Take on the World. They also played, but that's not, in my opinion, such a great song, so it doesn't matter. However, as far as Hellbound for Leather goes, I'm gonna give it 2 thumbs up as well. It's a kind of transition from the heavier and more technical stuff to kind of easier, catchier music. They bring on the bass in the production, so it sounds nice and heavy. I think it's a really cool album. Here's the Japanese version of that live album from that same tour, Priest in the East, it was called, in Japan. And you get the 13 tracks there. So that's a lot to discuss. I kind of hope that I remembered everything. Maybe I could also mention them. Well, there's not any official material from the 70s that I know of, other than actually that Old Grey Whistle test thing where they play Rock'n'Roll and Dreamer Deceiver. There's also like a studio fake live on Take on the World and Evening Star, which I think it's cool. Yeah, they're kind of like more mellow songs, but the band was on fire in the 70s, so pretty much everything they did, except Rock'n'Roll, I think is on point. And this is not, unfortunately, an official version, but they did record material from their show in Japan in 1978. So there are 5 songs here: Exciter, White Heat, Red Hot, Beyond the Realms of Death, Diamonds and Rust, and Starbreaker. And those are floating around in the interweb somewhere as well. Then there are two versions of Exciter, where they are fake live once again, but still cool to see. And then Take on the World and Killing Machine, I think I already mentioned those. Or was it actually, I think it was Evening Star there. Take on the World and Evening Star. So here you also get Killing Machine. There's a version of that, like a promotional, like a music video kind of thing. So that's pretty much the 70s for you. I don't know, maybe I'll return with a follow-up because there's still a lot of praise to go around. So, let's see if I can make it through the 80s on part 2.